Hi, welcome back to New York City Travel Tips and Hacks. This is Katie.
And this is Lori.
Today we're going to be talking about visiting the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. Some of the things we'll be covering on this podcast will be how to get tickets for these attractions, what some of your different ticketing options are, which one's the best one for you to choose, and also some of the logistics of planning your trip, just so you have the best experience possible. Before we jump in with all of that, though, please take a minute, if you haven't already, and subscribe to our podcast.
Okay, so where is the Statue of Liberty? If you're looking at a map of Manhattan, you're going to go to the southern tip and then go west. To the west, there's a river called the Hudson River, and across the river is the state of New Jersey. Liberty Island and Ellis Island are in the New York Harbor, closer to the New Jersey state line.
But still part of New York. A very important thing that Lori just said is that these are islands out in the harbor. So because of that, there is actually no way for you to drive to the Statue of Liberty or Ellis Island, or for you to take a subway the way you can with a lot of other attractions. The only way to get to these two places is to take a ferry boat. There is one company that operates the ferries for both islands, but there are two different access points. So you can take a ferry from Battery Park, right there at the southern tip of Manhattan, and the access point is Castle Clinton, right there in Battery Park. But you can also take a ferry from New Jersey, from Liberty State Park. So there are two different ways for you to get there.
Okay, so there's three different ticketing options that you can get directly from Statue Cruises, and that would be the general admission, Pedestal, or Crown. Now, general admission and Pedestal are the same price, but they're a little bit different. With general admission, you get the cruise to both islands, you get access to the museums, and you get an audio tour. Now, with Pedestal, it's all of those things and access to the pedestal on the statue. Now, with the crown price is a little bit different. It's only a few dollars more, but they only sell 500 a day, which makes them a bit coveted and a little bit more difficult to get. So in high season, I would say 4 to 6 weeks in advance, you need to plan for the crown tickets.
Yes, definitely. If that's something you know that you want to do, I would absolutely encourage you to plan as early as you possibly can. Even for pedestal tickets, it's a good idea to plan in advance. So when you're booking tickets directly through Statue Cruises, you are booking reserved tickets. So you're booking for a specific date and time, and they only release a certain number of tickets for each of these categories. They have the most general admission tickets. They have the fewest crown tickets. Pedestal's somewhere in the middle. There's certainly more than crown, but they can sell out, especially in high season. If you were to walk up in our peak season and go right to Castle Clinton later in the day and try to buy a pedestal access ticket, they may very well be out for that day. Yeah. So something good to plan ahead. But the good news is, if for some reason that happens and pedestal is sold out for the day that you want to go through Statue Cruises, you do have a few other options. There are some third-party vendors that also sell tickets for the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. So through these third-party vendors, oftentimes what you're getting is a flex ticket. That's going to be the kind of ticket that's included in a tourist pass or in your hop-on, hop-off bus tour. But the other reason I wanted to bring up these third-party vendors is they also get pedestal access tickets in bulk for each specific day. So even if Statue Cruises says they're sold out for the day you want to go, one of these third-party vendors may still have those tickets available. So definitely worth checking if that's something you have your heart set on.
Two websites, Get Your Guide and Viator, both sell the tickets, and they oftentimes don't sell out of the pedestal tickets.
So definitely those are the places you want to check if Statue Cruises says they don't have any availability. And that way you don't miss out on getting to go to the pedestal if that's something you really want to do. So a lot of those tourist passes, if Statue of Liberty is bundled into your tourist pass, oftentimes that'll also include a guided tour. And we'll talk a little bit later on in the podcast about what your experience will be, what your different options for tours would be on both islands, and kind of what our personal opinions are as far as the best thing to do. But let's get into some of the logistics of visiting. I think it's actually an excursion that does require a fair amount of planning for you to have a good day.
It, it,
I,
it is, in my opinion, is the most underestimated attraction in New York City because it is going to take you more hours than walking into a museum and walking back out.
I cannot tell you how many times I have had people miss my afternoon walking tours in Manhattan because they went to the Statue of Liberty earlier in the day and completely underestimated how much
Yeah.
time that was going to take.
Yeah.
So I would say, timing wise, just to get to some specifics, if you're doing just general admission for the Statue of Liberty, so all we're talking about is the ferry ride over to the Statue of Liberty, walking the grounds of the Statue of Liberty, and then coming back, you're still looking at 3 hours, probably minimum, for that experience. As soon as you start adding on pedestal access or crown access or a trip over to Ellis Island, your trip starts to be 4, 5, even 6 hours long. So you definitely want to plan ahead and make sure that that fits in with your schedule for the rest of the day. I really think it's worth it to plan for it to be 6 hours, and that way you don't feel rushed and you can really take advantage of everything that there is to do on both islands.
Yeah, and I think the Ellis Island is what people typically skip, but my recommendation is to go. It is worth going. Most likely your ancestors, or there's a high chance your ancestors came through there. You can walk the same grounds. They have a research center where you can look up your relatives that may have come through there.
For anybody that's not familiar with Ellis Island out there in the harbor, it was our immigration processing depot beginning in 1892. Actually, over 12 million newly arrived immigrants were processed out there at Ellis Island. For those of us that live in the United States today, almost 40% of us are related to someone that came through Ellis Island. So it is a piece of family history for a lot of people in the United States. It's an absolutely fantastic museum. It's really detailed and really interesting. And I do think it is absolutely worth doing. So personal opinion is do both the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. So you want to make sure you have enough time for that. Just a good thing to know is, because this can stretch into being kind of a full day excursion, there are options to buy food and drinks on both Liberty Island and Ellis Island, and on the actual ferry boats as well. So you'll have plenty of chances to eat and drink along the way.
But you can bring your own food and picnic. And my recommendation is Ellis Island to picnic there.
It'll be a little less crowded. There's more shade, and I think there's some nicer areas to picnic over there.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a pretty pleasant way to spend an afternoon. I think one of the other things, timing wise, that people really underestimate or maybe don't know as much about is the security aspect of it. You will have to go through airport style security to get on the ferry boat to go over to the islands. It really will look very, very similar to being in an airport. Really, the only major difference is you will get to keep your shoes on, but everything else will be pretty much the same. Your bags will have to go through scanners. You will have to take off jackets, sweaters, hats, scarves, all of that. So plan ahead if you can, and wear something that's relatively easy to get on and off if you're going to have to remove any layers. And also really think about what you're bringing with you as far as bags. You don't want to have to be held up by having to put a bunch of bags through a scanner. And also, once you get over to Liberty Island, if you have access to the pedestal or the crown, you will have to do that security again once you are going into the statue itself. And they actually won't allow you to bring large bags with you. They don't allow anything like that inside the statue, mostly because it's a pretty tight space. So there are lockers available for storage over there on Liberty Island, and there's lockers on Ellis Island, but it's really better to not have to mess with that. So if at all possible, just try to travel lightly on that day.
And
try to not be carrying much.
It's all listed on their website, what you can and can't bring. Like, you could bring food and drink there and picnic, but you can't bring food and drink inside the Statue of Liberty. So they're going to make you dump it out or throw it out.
Also, because it is a national park area, there are some prohibited items as well. You can't bring weapons, you can't bring sharp objects, so no scissors, no pocket knives, things like that. Those things can actually be confiscated going through security, and you will not necessarily get them back. So don't bring anything you're particularly attached to. Definitely check out that prohibited items list. You're going to want to do that.
One
Um,
one more thing, you do have to keep in mind you are taking ferries to each island. So if you're starting at Castle Clinton, you are taking a ferry ride, standing on line for that ferry, waiting for the ferry to board. Then you get over to the first island, get off, and then you're doing the same thing all over again to get to the next island, and then again to get back. So you do spend a significant amount of time riding on the ferries or waiting for the ferries.
So again, another timing thing that it's just important to know, so you don't really underestimate the time that the experience will take you. This is all completely worthwhile. And as far as places to stand and wait in line for a ferry, it's a pretty pleasant spot. You have some beautiful views from both islands. Something else that's really important to know when you're kind of trying to plan what it is you want to do on your trip and you're maybe debating between some of these different ticketing options is knowing what will happen once you do get into the Statue of Liberty. So for pedestal access, there are elevators that go up to the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty. I have found when I've been there with pedestal access, the lines to get on the elevators are really, really long.
Yeah, I gave up. I gave up.
I definitely did too. No, I don't even think I really tried. I think I looked at the line and just said, no, forget it. I'm just taking the stairs. So just know that stairs may very well be a part of your day for pedestal access, and they will absolutely be a part of your day if you are one of the lucky people that gets crown access. This is probably the most important planning thing we are going to tell you. There is no elevator up to the crown of the Statue of Liberty. Repeat, there is no elevator up to the crown of the Statue of Liberty. You have to take the stairs. So at minimum, you are going to take over 160 steps up. And that's if you take the elevator up to the pedestal and then take the stairs. If you just take the stairs all the way from the lobby up to the crown, it's over 370 stairs. And the staircase itself is relatively narrow. It's kind of a tight spiral that goes up. And so for that reason, if you are somebody that is claustrophobic or has vertigo or has an extreme fear of heights, this really isn't a recommended experience for you. You probably just won't be very comfortable. It's also not recommended because of the stairs for anybody that has a respiratory condition or a heart condition. Really think about what you are physically up for before you kind of take the plunge on doing that crown access.
Or pregnant, right? Because they're steep stairs.
They are steep stairs. May just want to be something you try later on when you're not pregnant. And if you are parents that have small children, there is a height requirement for your children as well.
Yeah,
so make sure
your children have to be 4 feet tall or 1.2 meters.
Yes.
Yep.
So really make sure you kind of assess all of these things before you take the plunge on the crown. It's absolutely worth it. If you are one of those lucky people that gets a ticket, it's a spectacular view, but do make sure it's something you're up for. And if you're not, then don't worry. The pedestal is amazing as well. It really is. Yeah. It's a gorgeous view.
I think the pedestal is worth it. If you don't get the crown, the pedestal is a good view. Yeah,
it is. It's a beautiful view. You're going to get to see the harbor and lower Manhattan. Something very important to know with both the pedestal and the crown. I know I mentioned it's a relatively tight space. It really, really is. They do give you specific times for those entries into the pedestal and the crown. So make sure you pay attention to your ticket and you go at the correct time. And they do that to kind of control the numbers of people going in and out, but it's tight. So be patient when you're up there. Everybody wants the exact same picture from the exact same spot on the pedestal. So just be patient and wait for other people and take turns, and that way everybody has a pleasant day and everybody will get a chance to get the picture they want. I promise. Yes. So it is highly, highly worth it though, if you do manage to get one of those pedestal or crown tickets, I think. So we've gone over, some of the different things that there will be to see and what some of the different options are for putting your day together. But for those that like a little more information rather than just seeing pretty views and nice architecture, there are a lot of options for tours for you. So something that you will get if you buy a ticket directly from Statue Cruises is you do get access to their free audio tour. I have done it. It's great. It's really detailed. Free Tours by Foot, who sponsors this podcast, also has an option for an audio tour, a self-guided audio tour for both Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. And the way that's put together, you can kind of customize the way you want to do it, in what order you happen to be doing it. So that's absolutely something you can check out as well.
They also have park ranger tours at Ellis Island.
They do, which are great, and a little more specialty and certainly something you would have to plan ahead. Ellis Island recently started offering what they call hard hat tours of their hospital buildings. So the general entry is just for the main processing center building. But Ellis Island had a hospital on site. It was actually one of the first public health hospitals in the United States. And up until very, very recently, it was not accessible to the public at all. They just started offering these specialized tours and taking groups in. But you do have to wear a construction hard hat because the buildings are not nearly in as good a shape as some of the other buildings that are more accessible to tourists, but something very, very cool to check out if you get a chance. I know I'm planning on taking one as soon as possible.
With me.
Yes, with you. So I just, if you want to try something maybe a little more off the beaten track, I think that's a really cool option.
Yeah.
So when you buy a ticket for the Statue of Liberty Ellis Island, or if you get a ticket bundled into a tourist pass, just know that usually that does come with some other type of tour as well. So that's part of what you're getting with that tourist pass. As far as kind of, do we think that's worth it or not? I'll let Lori share her own opinions on that. My 2 cents is, I wouldn't personally. I think because part of what you're getting when you get a tourist pass is certain discounts on the attractions that you choose to include in your pass. I think the discount is better applied elsewhere to other attractions.
Something more expensive.
Yeah, something that's going to cost you a little bit more. And one of the main reasons I say that is because there are so many great low cost or free options for audio tours and for in-person tours once you're over there with the rangers. I think you have so much access and so many resources to information that you don't necessarily need that extra that's bundled into your tourist pass.
And being on a tour then keeps you from accessing all of those resources too.
Right. So I think for me, the way I would do it, the way I have done it and taken friends and family members is buying the tickets directly through Statue Cruises. But I do recommend that Pedestal ticket, at least, and with a stop on Ellis Island as well. What about you, Lori?
So because we live nearby, and I'll come through the New Jersey side and I've come through the Castle Clinton side. I've actually walked up and bought tickets. I did go one time after 12 and they were out of Pedestal. Just an FYI. But I went early and I've bought Pedestal and just gone right over from the New Jersey side. That's how I recommend it because they do have the audio tour. And there's just so many resources, especially in Ellis Island, that I would want to break away from a tour to go do those things and see things.
Because I just think there's so much information there and there's so much to see and little nooks and crannies. And I would definitely want to go at my own pace too, I think.
If you think about
so that's just our personal opinion.
Yeah, if you're going through a neighborhood like Greenwich Village or Soho, you don't have all these things to read. And, you need someone to kind of guide you through and tell you those stories. But Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island, you have those things there that you can read. Yes. Yeah, I'd say
Absolutely. So use
that's the,
that discount on something more
yeah,
expensive,
that's my
and something
opinion.
that doesn't have all of the resources available for you. Hopefully, this has helped clear up some of the ins and outs of planning a trip to the Statue of Liberty in Ellis Island. It is, I think, one of the most iconic experiences for a visitor to New York City. So it's not to be missed. And hopefully, this gives you a little bit better idea of what some of the options out there are, and which one might be right for you. But I think to cap it off, best advice is plan ahead if you can. Go as early in the day as you can. um, and really take full advantage of what there is to see and do on both of those islands. So thank you so much for joining us today. Again, hopefully this has been helpful information. If you have not already, please take a moment to subscribe to our podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Bye.